Hello, and welcome back to the Pleasure Priority Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Amber, and it is my pleasure to talk to you every episode. Today's topic is one that I've definitely talked about before, and I definitely will talk about again, but it's been coming up a lot lately with my clients, so I decided to bring it to the podcast. So, when you try to do something, and then there's that part of you that's like, you're too inexperienced. You don't know what you're doing. You're going to look stupid. People are going to judge you. You are going to judge you. AKA, we're going to judge ourselves if we put ourselves in a situation where we don't do it right, or we don't do it perfectly, or we don't do it the way that everybody else is doing it, or we don't do it in a way that gets us what we want on the very first try. If any of those outcomes are true, we just default to judging ourselves, to berating ourselves, to punishing ourselves. Like I was talking to a client the other day who considers herself a late bloomer. And when it comes to the idea of dating or putting herself out there or meeting new people, she freezes. She stops herself from allowing herself to explore how to get what she wants because she's scared to look dumb. And when I asked to who, she said herself. She's scared that she is going to judge herself. And this was news to her, so it's likely going to be news to a lot of y'all. Judging yourself is completely optional. It is a route that you do not have to take. Granted, I know that can sound crazy because that's what we were taught. We were taught that if we judge ourselves, if we punish ourselves, if we berate ourselves, if we withhold from ourselves, then we'll get in line, then we'll get in shape, then we'll get the thing, then that will motivate us even more to do it right. And I know that y'all have had the illusion of success with that method. And I call it the illusion of success because you think it works. And you only think it works because you made it work. But it doesn't actually work for you. Let me explain. When we judge ourselves, when we punish ourselves, when we withhold what we really want from ourselves, all in effort to try and do something, that whole process is not actually sustainable when it comes to achieving and maintaining your goals. And that's because your motivation is sourced from your fear. That fear of judgment, fear of doing it wrong, fear of being an asshole to yourself, fear of not getting the thing that you really do want, fear of looking dumb, fear of it all. That's what you're doing to push you forward. But you don't need to be pushed. You don't have to scare yourself into running just to become a runner. It's actually significantly more sustainable, and it feels so much better to derive your motivation from your joy. And in simplest terms, what we're really talking about here is positive conditioning versus negative conditioning. Studies have shown that negative conditioning doesn't even actually work for dogs. That if you just beat them or shove their noses in their excrement to try to teach them to go outside, that doesn't actually teach them a new behavior. It just teaches them how to fear you. And then it has them guessing how to accommodate you so they don't receive your wrath, because that's what they're actually afraid of. That's what they're actually avoiding. That's what the behavior is being created around versus going to the bathroom outside. So if studies show that this does not even work for dogs, why do we still consider it a viable option when it comes to us? And then similarly, on the other end, when we think about positive reinforcement, the example that I always love to use is babies, because society just has this general understanding that babies need love, support, affection, celebration, and positive reinforcement. That's why anytime a baby does something, everyone around cheers. Oh my God, you fell down. Oh my God, you got up. Oh my God, you took a step. Wow. You're making sounds, you're making noises, and I think they mean words, and that's so amazing. Wow, good job. That's how we treat babies because that is what they need to grow. That is what they need to learn. That is what they need to reinforce these patterns, habits, behaviors, lessons to be a functioning person in society. If we didn't celebrate those things, if we didn't cheer for babies, we would literally stunt their growth. Imagine. You go over to somebody's house, they have a kid that's not even a year old yet, and they're crawling. They're crawling around on the floor. And their parent is like, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you walking yet? I can't carry you forever. What you try to get up and you just keep falling down? What is that? What is that? What's wrong with you? Just walk. Just put one foot in front of the other. It's literally the easiest thing that you could ever do. Why are you having trouble with it?" Likely, if any of us heard that conversation, saw a parent speak like that to an infant, we would be up in arms. We would be calling the folks. We might even get to squabbling up because that's crazy. That's crazy. How could you do that? How could you talk to a child like that? How could you judge and berate them and shame them for not knowing something yet that they haven't had the opportunity to learn? It's crazy. However, it's what we are constantly doing to ourselves when we choose to judge ourselves for not being perfect, for not getting it right, for not doing it on the first try or the second or any of them that just it didn't happen. And when I told this to my client and when I told her like, "Yo, this is optional. Why are you choosing to judge yourself if you make a quote unquote mistake while you figure out dating?" And she didn't really have an answer because she thought it was the only option. She thought that's how you get to what you want. That's how you get to goals. You just have to beat yourself up. That's just how you leave your comfort zone. And my friends, that's not true. That's not true. Sometimes we may need a little loving push to get out of our comfort zone, but that doesn't mean that we need to default to being an asshole to ourselves anytime something doesn't work out the way that we think it should. Because when we are, we stunt our own growth. We stop ourselves from doing the things. Even with this client that I'm talking about, because she was so scared of judging herself, she wasn't even trying. She wasn't allowing herself to even think that people were attractive because that meant she might have to do something about it, like talk to them. And because she was so scared of doing that wrong, she stopped. However, her goal to find a partner requires her to talk to people that she finds attractive. It it just has to happen. But because she created this dynamic of self-judgment, self-beratement, self-punishment, her brain and her body was naturally doing everything it could to avoid that danger. And her brain took that as avoiding danger means avoiding the goal. It means avoiding what you want. So she didn't. And then we end up in these same places and end up unhappy because we don't yet have what we want. And then we double down on the judgment. See, what's wrong with you? You're not even doing the things. You're not even going out there. You must not even really want it bad enough. And then we feel even worse. And then it just ends up at this bottomless pit that is so hard to climb your way out of unless you stop being a dick to yourself. And this goes for anything. You want to lose weight, but you're scared of it not working out in your timeline, so you just don't go to the gym. You want to sign clients, but you're scared of just speaking into the void and looking stupid, so you don't even put yourself out there. You have great ideas that would solve so many problems, but you're scared that somebody might disagree and that their disagreement makes your idea wrong and not worth sharing. So you don't. Judging yourself for mistakes, being your own biggest asshole is literally the enemy of your joy. because it keeps you stuck. It keeps you stuck in exactly what you don't want and blind to how you can solve it. It doesn't feel good. It's not fun. And again, it doesn't actually work in any long-term sustainable type of way. And that's because fear only works until we get apathetic. Like, oh no, I'm going to judge myself. Oh no, oh no, oh no, I need to avoid it. I need to avoid it. I need to avoid it, until we experience it so much that it loses its thrill. Like, oh yeah, I guess that's just the way the cookie's going to crumble today. I guess I'll just take these licks. I guess I'll just deal with this punishment. Because without the pleasure means we don't have the dopamine, which means this road to apathy is inevitable if we stay in this cycle of self-judgment and self-beratement. So the reason that I'm saying this method is not sustainable is because that fear loses its potency over time and over experience. You normalize fear. You normalize the judgment. You normalize not getting what you want. And then you just accept that as your reality and tell yourself that you can't have what you want. So, yeah, even though it may work for a little, it is the illusion of success because it will not work for you long term. It will not work for you as your goals keep getting more complicated or life continues to life while you are en route to achieving them. So yeah, after I blew my client's brain and she was like, wait, what? This doesn't have to be what I do? This isn't my only option? Like if I didn't judge myself, what would I do? And my friends, I love this question. I love this question because the options are endless. What do you want to do? If pain, fear, punishment, shame, judgment wasn't waiting for you when you got home, what would you do with your night? But yeah, for her, we were talking about the idea of celebrating herself for the effort, for the attempt at making new skills, celebrating herself for going after what she wants and being the person that future her can thank for putting in the work. She can look at the positives of the situation instead of only the negatives. She can look and seek for how it's going to go well and not just how it can go wrong. She can create practices that are more conducive to her achieving her goals. The ones that pull her in instead of force her with a push. Even the idea of visible representation or gamification, like something as simple as getting a jar and filling it with marbles, rocks, crystals, whatever, beads, things you have on hand, and putting one thing in there every time you do something that is conducive to your goal. And then you have that visual representation of the small things adding up, of the 1% rule in effect. And that will help your brain see that you are doing so much to get there, even though you're not there yet. It'll inspire you to keep going. It'll pull you in and motivate you because you see more of what you want instead of fearing what you don't. You won't grow apathetic because your intentions and attempts will be authentic. And then when that's how you feel in process, in progress, one, the journey is so much better to getting what you want. Two, you'll actually get there and likely significantly faster than you would have in any other way. And three, it's sustainable because you want to keep doing it. Those behaviors, those habits that you created, they weren't out of force, they weren't out of fear, they were out of love and intention. They're things that you want to continue doing. Because again, think about it, just switching examples, because this happens all the time. And I know a lot of people can resonate with it. But when you work really hard to lose weight and you're in this place of judging yourself, judging your body, judging yourself for, not eating just a salad or not working out all the times that you said that you would and all that kind of shit. When those people actually hit their goal weight, 9 times out of 10, they gain it back. because they don't want to keep doing the things that got them to the point of weight loss. Because those things aren't fun. Because those things felt like a punishment the whole time. Because they didn't feel free in their decisions. And freedom looked like all the things that made them gain the weight in the first place. When you drive yourself with fear and punishment and judgment, you're not actually driving change within yourself. You're not actually creating new habits. You're just cosplaying as the version of yourself you need to be to not get in trouble. And as soon as that fear of trouble goes away, you back on your bullshit because there's no incentive not to be. Because being on bullshit is a lot more fun than always having to hear yourself be such an asshole to yourself. Yeah, and we can't outrun our own brains. We can't get away from what's inside of us. So instead, we just avoid the things that bring the asshole out, aka all the things that we need to do to get to where we want. So again, I'll let you know, that's not your only option. You don't have to just avoid the asshole or avoid doing things that bring the asshole out. You can just skip that part. You don't even have to invite the asshole to the party. You can call up the cheerleader instead, and I promise, you're going to have a lot better time. And with my client, we didn't get to resolution. This conversation was only this week. However, she is already taking action and taking steps towards finding her partner that she was not doing before this conversation. She messaged me about getting on the apps, about actually swiping on people and starting conversations, and that she didn't have this looming cloud over her as if she was going to do something wrong or make a mistake, or that there really was something to fear. Y'all, she was having fun swiping. And that's the whole point of this. That is the whole point of all of this. You can have what you want, and it will be work to get there. But that doesn't mean that it has to suck the whole time. That doesn't mean that you can't have fun. Your joy is what leads you to what you want, is what leads you to your fulfillment, to your purpose, to your peace. It starts with the audacity to acknowledge what you want and go after it. And the audacity to make any quote unquote mistakes along the way. Because, yeah, on that note, mistakes are inevitable. They are part of life. You will make them. You are supposed to make them. Because all they really are things not going according to how you expected them to. And the thing about it is, we're wrong a lot. Shit usually doesn't go the way that we expect, especially new shit. It's okay to be wrong. It's all right. There's nothing wrong with you because you're wrong sometimes. It's just part of it, and that's okay. And I'll also add that you are not alone. So many of us were taught and socialized to think these ways. We were taught that punishment works. We were taught that that's how you learn. So it's not your fault for not knowing that it could be different. But it is your responsibility to make the change. And if you have any questions on how to do that, you can always submit to Ask Amber. It is in the show notes of every episode. And all you got to do is write in your question with as much detail as possible, and I'll answer it on the next Ask Amber episode. Remember, you don't have to be an asshole to yourself. You don't have to choose to judge yourself. And I'll add, there is a difference between self-reflection and self-beratement. Please learn it. But that's all I got for you today, friends. It's been my absolute pleasure to bring this episode to you today. And as always, stay pleased, friends. Thanks for joining me for this episode of The Pleasure Priority. I hope that when you see things can be better, you're inspired to do better. Because remember, you deserve nothing less than an abundance of joy, fulfillment, and all the peaceful good vibes. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Oh, and hey, make sure you're on my email list for more tips, laughs, story times, community, and all things pleasure. So until next time, keep living life on your terms because settling is for the birds. All right, stay pleased, my friends. I'll see you soon.